Hello, this is Dr. Bob Evans, and welcome to our podcast, Parental Alienation from Couch to Courtroom and Beyond. We will discuss the resisting and refusing dynamic, commonly referred to as parental alienation, how you'll know it's happening in your case, and what can be done about it. Parental alienation can cause stress and trauma in high-conflict cases. These podcasts focus on how attorneys and mental health professionals can support families and children. In her most recent newsletter, Karen Woodall, out of the UK, who's a therapist, she's a writer, researcher, she's a trainer, specializing in the area of parental alienation, child resistance issues. Her recent newsletter was very impressive, and I think it's something that I'd like to share with our group here over in the States, in the colonies, if you will. The title of her newsletter this month was The Impact of Split Narratives in Professional Work with Alienated Children. And she really describes the situation extremely well regarding the situation children find themselves in these custody cases and finding themselves as an alienated child. I'm going to adapt her newsletter ever so slightly, just so you'll get a good picture of what she's talking about and how the situation professionally is. And she talks about, like, when you understand why some children in divorce and separation align with one parent and reject the other, it becomes easier to understand why the professionals around these families tend to do the same thing. I've talked about this previously in other podcasts where professional mental health professionals, lawyers, legal professionals find themselves aligning themselves with one side of the case or the other. This week, she talks about being reminded that splitting in teams is a real risk when working with this issue, and how the legal as well as mental health professionals who work with families affected by a child's alignment and rejection behavior are no less vulnerable to the split state of mind than the children they're purportedly representing. That's why it takes a skilled team led by a wise judge with the capacity to see further and wider than everyone else involved in the case in order to manage the dynamics inherited in these families in an adversarial setting. While surrounded by this binary narrative, which is driven by campaigners with their own often rigid psychological positions, there are many people working directly with divorce and separation around the world. These are generally divided into legal, mental health professionals who provide services either in the family court system or around it, and as such are working directly with families. Another group working in the field are academics whose research into the personal experience of divorce and separation, as well as the systems which individuals must interact with, offers an additional source of information. So there's this team of people. You got the legal mental health people, you got the research people, and she goes on to tell us that in recent years, however, there's been another concentric circle interacting in this field of expertise, and these are campaigners whose attempt to sway public opinion through the manipulation of narratives is often seen to be interlocked with academics who are known to view this issue through an ideological lens. With the rise of this interlinking of academic outputs and campaign narratives, binary splitting in terms of who is right and who is wrong has become an entrenched background in this work, so much so that it's now very difficult to trust that conclusions drawn from some research is anything but confirmation of the researcher's own internal bias. Some research in this field tends to be biased towards the values and beliefs the researcher aligns to, often called me-search. The evidence of this is the way in which outcomes are almost always lined up as for or against an issue. In most recent years, the split in this field has begun to focus on improving the claim that alienation is a tool of abusive fathers, which falls far short of attending to all of the nuanced aspects of harm which can be caused to children who are triangulated into the adult relationship in divorce and separation. Researchers often claim to be providing an independent view of a subject through construction of replicable studies which allow conclusions to be verified by others. In reality, research in this field has turned into something of a tennis match in recent years, as studies claiming one thing is true are challenged by studies claiming that the same thing is untrue, and pseudoscience as an accusation that the other side's research is faulty is freely used by all. The binary split in understanding of the field has become a powerful reality, and the reasons for this include things like the impact of campaigners in their interlocked relationship with academics, working from an ideological standpoint, the researchers who have little awareness of their own internal biases and who are projecting those onto this highly emotive subject. The primitive defenses of denial, splitting, and projections are at play here, meaning that the personal projections of the researcher become entangled with the projections within the subject matter. Research is being undertaken without placing what is being heard in the proper context. In other words, self-reports of mothers who have been found to have abused their children are taken at face value without any background context being offered. Primitive defenses provoke strong feelings, and when strong feelings meet internal biases, the outcome is often in alignment with what is believed to be true rather than objective evidence which is obtained by curious inquiry. This has never been more true than in the current psychologically split climate, where one side believes that their truth is more true than anyone else's. We're finding there's a leaning in the court systems that allegations are being treated as a fact, and plenty of evidence to support that statement. There's an old saying in psychology which goes, feelings are not facts. And this is never more true than working in the field of post-separation abuse of children. In this arena, where we are working with people who are at the rawest edge of change in their lives, which may have been imposed without warning, and which takes away all sense of control, feelings run higher than any crisis other than bereavement. As such, in the earliest days of family separation, feelings are treated by the separating family very much as if they are fact, as everyone involved retreats to their tribe of origin to beat the drum of righteousness as a defense against deeply felt pain. Trending carefully as a practitioner in those early days is important. Listening to the narratives, but not aligning with any of them, is vital if any kind of beneficial impact can be made. That statement is really worth repeating. Trending carefully as a practitioner in those early days of separation in a family is important. Listening to the narratives, but not aligning with any of them is vital if any kind of beneficial impact can be made. Working with families where the divided narrative has become entrenched and feelings are rigidly claimed as fact requires an even greater capacity to remain unaligned, to any person's strongly felt truth, keeping in mind that feelings are not facts and ideological belief systems do not provide a framework in which psychological integration can be achieved, is essential guidance to successful work in these circumstances. Splitting is a powerful driver in this space when feelings dominate other facts, and much research in this field has now become a meta-expression of the splitting which takes place in families. This is caused by absence of context. When research is based upon the self-reports of parents, and the researcher does not set a study in the context in which these self-reports are made, when projections, rumor, and claim are considered to be all that there is needed to draw conclusions about who is doing what to who, and how and why, and when media reports are considered by campaigners to be more reliable than published judgments, how can such research be trusted? The real concern about splitting in this field is the way in which the pathology obfuscates the lived experience of alienated children. When researchers are busy proving that alienation is real or not real, or a tool of abusive fathers or vindictive mothers, and the naive ones stand to one side bemoaning the fact that one side doesn't talk to the other, this is a catastrophic failure to understand this pathology. The kids in the midst of this are doing their best to survive. The reality of splitting in the professionals around these children is that they often become far more interested in upholding their own version of what is going on than they are in what is happening to children. When some children are trying to survive the unsurvivable, and campaigners are busy trying to obfuscate that reality, whilst research is produced which lacks even the basic curiosity about their lives, the lived experience of alienated children is simply ignored. It's erased and treated as if it doesn't exist. What we call alienation of children is psychological and emotional abuse, caused usually by one parent, and which causes the children and young people to become removed from their capacity to feel and express their own feelings. When your parents' feelings overshadow and intrude on your own, you lose not only the ability to feel your authentic feelings, but the ability to express them. When children who are trauma bonded to an abusive parent cannot speak in words about their experience, they will show their distress through their behaviors, most specifically in the way that their attachment relationships become disorganized due to pressure of the double bind that they're in. For those who understand the behaviors of children who are trauma bonded, the hyper alignment with one and rejecting of the other is the first red flag that something untoward is happening in the child's primary relationships. Just as we cannot see what happens behind closed doors in adult relationships, the trauma-bonded adult who cannot speak about their experience shows us distinct behaviors, and it is exactly the same for children in the same precarious position. Those very same campaigners who seek to obfuscate children's behaviors, who are vocal about how women behave when they cannot leave an abusive relationship, are failing children who are in the same position. If you look closer at the behaviors of children who are showing strong alignment and rejection behaviors, for example, you will see exactly the same behaviors in the abused child as the abused adult who seeks to placate, regulate, and anticipate the unpredictable needs of the abusive person they are living with. The problem for so many researchers and other professionals in this field is that they are so distracted by campaign narratives, projections, rumors, and false narratives of those who have been found to have abused their children that they miss the reality of what is really happening to these children. It takes a cool head, a determined curiosity, and forensic drive to get to the heart of this problem in the midst of the binary splitting. But when you do, the truth of what is happening to these children is articulated by those very children themselves. Karen's newsletter very much depicts what these children are going through and how frequently we see in the court system where a guardian ad litem is aligned with a parent and the children are somewhat pushed to the side. Whoa, everybody talks about the focus is on the children and the children's best interests. But the case drones on months, years in some cases, and the child stays in this limbo state of living with an abusive parent who is alienating that child against the other parent. We need to be more sensitive to these issues. We need to start waking up and paying more attention to what's going on. Karen's talking about how mental health professionals, not all of them, some mental health professionals wind up becoming advocates for one side of a case when in fact they're supposed to maintain their objectivity. We'll see this both in legal professionals and we also see this in mental health professionals, and it winds up really creating a very difficult situation in a case. Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information on this topic, please visit www.drbobevans.com or www.naopas.com. We offer classes for both legal and mental health professionals to help educate them on the signs and strategies of parental alienation and how to move forward for a healthier environment for the children of divorce. Please visit www.naopas.com and sign up for our courses and use coupon code PODCAST for a 50% discount.